Welcome back once again to developing quizzes in Moodle. Brief overview, we mentioned that for multiple choice questions, this is how we do it. 1, we prepare our questions. 2, you go to question bank and create a category. 3, import your MCQs, set up quiz activity, and finally number 4, you go ahead and deploy your quiz. What manner of questions are we looking at? This is an example. How many legs does a hen have? You want to be sure that your options are in caps, at least the numbering is in caps, and that below you have answer, colon, space, the denoted answer in caps as well. We'll save our work in plain text format. Remember to indicate as such, just so you do not get any errors. Number 2, you want to be sure that it is indicated as so that the system is able to establish and identify the answer. For shuffling purposes, you can do away with the numbering after you're done with structuring and formatting your work. And 4, just so you can minimize errors when you're importing your questions onto the portal, avoid punctuations. So let's dive right in. I want to pick up my document, that is my quiz. This is in Word format. Then I just want to be sure that there are no unnecessary punctuations. Full stops and question marks will suffice. And then the options here go in as such, A, B, C, D, of course that is in caps, as well as my denoted answer. I want to be sure it is the case for all my questions. Indeed, it is so. I have 6 questions. These are adequate for demo purposes. So once I have that in place, I go ahead and save. Of course, this one I have it saved as quiz 7. Remember, we want to build up quiz 7 onto our portal. Next, same file, I want to save it to the second version, only this time I want to save it in plain text format. So within this file, which I'm calling cards, within this folder, I have quiz 7. Now, same file, I want to save it, but this time in a different format, that is plain text format. So I'll come, just at the name right here, I will save as type, click on the drop down here, and scroll down to where you have plain text, select it, and save. It will give you this pop-up window. Do nothing about it. This is a prompt on file conversion. Just go ahead and say OK. So now when you go to your folder here, this is my folder now. In this case now I have 2 versions. I have the Word document and I have the plain text document here. Just give us a glimpse. I can open it up like so, and you'll notice that all manner of formatting has been stripped away, and the portal only allows for plain text. So our file is ready. Next, we want to go to the portal and we identify our course. In this case, we want to handle course TRT 101, that is training. First, you want to turn editing on. Red hot, meaning it is on. Next, we will now want to go to question bank and create our category before we set up our quiz. So to the right hand side of my screen, there are 2 blocks. There's a navigation block, and right below it you have the administration block. Scroll down, you will see question bank. Click on it once. It opens up on this window. It gives you 3 options under question bank. You have categories, import, and export. Of key importance to us is categories, where we want to create our repository or our store where we'll bring our questions. And thereafter, we shall import our questions into the category that we will have created. So I'll click on category. Now you'll notice something here. We have a number of quizzes that have previously been set up. We have Cat 5, Cat 6, Quiz 1. So I'll scroll down. Remember, I just came to administration here, click on question bank, came up here, clicked on categories. I scroll down. I want to be sure that it reads default here. The parent category is default for TRT 101. And I come here and I name my category, which I'm just about to create, and call it as such, quiz 7. And I just go ahead and say add category. Now from this listing up here under default, you realize that we have a new category, guys. Quiz 7 is here. It has 0 questions. The other ones you can tell, this one has 7, that one has 12, has 7 and 0. this is of what is interest to us. Once the category is ready, let's go ahead and import our questions. I'll click on import. I can format. No other format shall be allowed for purpose of MCQs. So I can format. I come here under general, just after file format, under general here, you want to establish the destination where you want to import your questions. Remember the category we created? I'll come under general, import category, and right here, I want to select my category to just create, that is quiz 7. So I can format, can import category quiz 7, and then I'll go ahead and choose file. I get my file picker, choose file, and I pick my quiz 7, that is .txt, say open. I can name it at this end or just leave it as such and just say upload this file. So at this point now I have my quiz 7 file here .txt. I go ahead and say import. At this point then I am importing 6 questions from file. In case I would have any error at this point, it will give me a prompt right here and specify exactly which question might be having any queries or errors, and I can go ahead and continue and do a review of the same. And now that our 6 questions are successfully imported, I go ahead and say continue. Now you will realize now once I go to categories, I check under quiz 7 here. Now I have my 6 questions successfully imported. Next, this is what we will do after we've done the question bank. Number 3, we want to go up and set up the quiz activity. Now I'll go back to the course home. Now this is my progress bar. Remember how we go to the course? You would come under my courses and you would identify your course, specific course. In our case, that would be TRT 301. Another route we took, or basically this is what we did. Under my courses, I picked up my course. So far we had categories here. So to get back home, I just click on TRT 101 here. And I scroll down to lesson 2, where I want to put in quiz 7. So under lesson 2 here, right below, after various resources that are herein, I want to go and add an activity. There are many resources and activities herein, but of key interest to us is this quiz function here. So I just click on it. It opens up at this end. I'll go ahead and name it. This is quiz 7. Below here, I'll put in my instructions and I will display this on the course page, so that then once it is displayed on the page, my students, my learners are aware that these are the details that are related to the paper I am giving, or the quiz. 1 attempt allowed for each question. Quiz opens at this time and closes at that time. Once you start, you will have 10 minutes. There shall be no deadline extension. Those are my instructions. Once I've done the naming, next I come to timing. I want to schedule this. This is 28th July. So 5 to 6 p.m. I go ahead and remember this is in 24 hours. 5 p.m. that would be 1700 hours. That is when it opens. It closes at 1800 hours. Oops. After my timing, then right here, time limit. Remember, this is a short quiz. Most of it would be out of recalling, so I can answer it, or rather students would answer it. So I have 10 minutes. This quiz takes 10 minutes. It is available for 1 hour, but within 10 minutes from start to finish, the student must be able to accomplish it. So I'll come here under time limit, enable this, and say 10 minutes. And then, of course, when the time expires, open attempts are submitted automatically. This point you will ignore grade. And the layout, at this point then you will establish how many questions you would want to be visible to the student at one go for every new page. For demo's sake, in as much as we only have 6 questions, for demo's sake, let's say we might want 2 per page. So I click on layout, And then instead of every question, I would say every 2 questions for a page. Next, question behavior. By default, this is deferred feedback. Deferred feedback, we'll leave it as is. Next, review options. Because we have deferred feedback, that is behavior, by default then, during the attempt, all these are grayed. Essentially so, this is deferred feedback. Next, we want to look at immediately after the attempt, later after the quiz is open, or after the quiz is open. So immediately after the attempt, what would you wish the student to see? For instance, number 1 to number 6, or as many questions I would have given. It would be important that they can confirm the attempt has been made. Whether correct, I might want to defer this perhaps to the end of the quiz. Same to marks. So generally, my practice would be I would uncheck all this except for the attempt. So immediately after the attempt, I am only able to ascertain that I have made an attempt for that specific question. And then later, while the quiz is still open, this is another block of options. While the quiz is still open, remember this quiz is going to be open between 5 and 6 p.m. 28th July. So while the quiz is still open, that will be between 5 and 6 p.m. And supposing the student comes in at 5:10 and is done by 5:15, should they get the feedback? Perhaps not. So in this case, while the quiz is still open, I will uncheck these as well, whether correct, right answer, and so on. And I will just leave the attempt as such. And then finally, after the quiz is closed, then I am at liberty, the students are at liberty to view their grades. So that at the tail end, then they're able to get their grades. In this case, then I will leave all these checked as such. So after review options, I will scroll down to where you have activity completion. Click on this. Completion tracking. By default, it says students can manually mark the activity as completed. You want to change this and make it that it is marked complete when conditions are met. Of course, what we're doing up here, we're bringing up conditions. So part of the conditions again include student must view this activity to complete it. And 2, a grade must be required. Student must receive a grade to complete this activity. With this check, then it becomes very easy that when you generate reports, you're able to tell who has done what and establish exactly where the status of students as their matters progress. Expect complete date. Let's put it on the same day, 6 o'clock. Let's say 6:10 or 6:15. That is after the close. Now, expected completed date. This is at point at which then the grading should be done and my students are able to engage and get their feedback. So I have my settings ready. I go ahead and save and return to course. At this point, we have just set up the quiz activity. When I scroll down to under week 2, you realize then I have my quiz here set up. I have it. This class only has 1 student. 0 has attempted. And then I have my instructions right below here. Now, next, we want to import the quiz. We want to set up the quiz. Or rather, we have imported the quiz. Now we want to deploy the quiz. This is what we will do. I click on the quiz here. Of course, right at the very top will be the instructions I would have given. And right below, there's a prompt for all to see. The quiz will not be available until Thursday, 5 p.m. It will close on Thursday, that time. Time limit 10 minutes, and so on. So because there are no questions as yet, I'll go ahead and say edit quiz. It brings me to this window here. Editing quiz. No questions as yet. There's a pencil here. This is a section we can edit. You want to come here and add. Click on this and then click on from question bank. Once I do that, then at the very top, this pop-up window comes. I want to be specific to that category that we just created. So I'll come here because again, there might be a media. Remember, there are a number of cards that I've built in this course so far. So you want to be specific to quiz 7, which has our 6 questions. I'll click on this. It will give me a listing of all these questions here. I have an opportunity to pick one by one or skip some and so on. Alternatively, because I need all of them, I just click on the first checkbox here and say add selected questions to the quiz. At this point then, all questions by default are accorded 1 mark each to give a total marks of 6. This is computed by the system. But now, once we have the total marks, we need to define the maximum grade. You want to be sure, just so you avoid decimal points, just to make your grading and assessing easy, you want to make sure the total marks is divisible by the maximum grade, so that there are minimal decimal points, perhaps nil, that would suffice. So in this case, you can have this divisible by 6, that could be 6, it could be 12, it could be 18. So if I were to put this, since there are 6 questions, I put this at 12, meaning each of these will be scored twice. This will be doubled. So maximum grade as much, and then I go ahead and click on the shuffle button here and say save. At this point then, all my questions are successfully saved. Next, we want to do a preview. Now, right here we have navigation, and right below we have administration. Here you are able to manage and move around the quiz or the course as well. So right here we have edit quiz, which we've just done. Let's do a preview. Click on preview. It will give me instructions. So of course it is important to do a preview so that you just have a feel of what the students expect to find, or what they should find when the quiz starts. So I have my time limit here. You'll have a time limit of 10 minutes. Of course, as we had set it up earlier, when you start, the timer will begin to count down and cannot be paused. You must finish your attempt before it expires. Are you sure you wish to start now? When I am ready, just go ahead and say start. And then at this point then, remember in my layout, we defined it as two questions per page. So we have them as such. So I'll go in and do my answering. I'll just do it random as such for demo purposes. So 2 questions at a go. Now on the right hand side here, you have a navigation bar which shows you out of 6 questions, it gives me two at a go. I can go ahead and say next page. I do my answering. I'll skip some deliberately just so we can check out the review, the feedback. I skip some as such, and then go ahead once I'm at the very tail end. Of course, there's a progress bar here. I'm at the very last question here. You will notice something, that the moment I started, there's going to be this window here, a floating window here, which gives me the time left. I have 10 minutes so far. I have 8 minutes and so many seconds to go. Once I'm done, finish attempt, it will bring me here where I have a summary of my attempts. Question 1 answered, 2 answered, 3 not yet answered, 4, 5 answered, 6 not yet answered. Since I still have another 8 minutes to go, I am able to go ahead and return to my attempts. Now, when I do return to my attempts, I should not only be able to access these 2 questions that I have not answered. Remember, it is only 1 attempt per question. So I click on return to attempt. You will notice something here under the quiz navigation. All the rest remain checkered except 3 and 6. So I'll go ahead and do my answering, answer that as well, and finish attempt. Not yet answered. Perhaps at this point I might be okay. Let's check which one this is. Number 3. Let's answer number 3. And I say next. I click finish. So all my questions are answered. I can go ahead now, since I'm sure this attempt must be submitted by that time. Yes. Click on that and submit all and finish. Once I do that, then it will give me a preview as a student, when I started, when I finished, what time I took. Now, even as the lecturer, as the instructor, once this is done and you draw out your reports, you are able to tell exactly how much time each student spent on each of these questions. Once the time, again, because we defined our review options as feedback at the end of the quiz, at that point then, you'll have the questions here. Since the quiz is still on, they cannot establish whether it is correct or not until when you've defined as the end of the quiz or when they are meant to get their feedback. Once the time is up, then the quiz is closed and feedback comes, then right below here it will show them whether correct or not and the correct answer. And that would happen for each of those questions that they're in there. Well, in a nutshell then, that is how we set our quizzes. Thank you.